what I'm going to do is mix up a regular double loaf sourdough batch. I'm going to take 100 grams of starter from each of my jars for 200 total. So I'm just going to dump those in here like this. So we'll get 100 in here. Just going to scoop some of that out. I'm actually not going to let this dough rise tonight anyway. It's too late. I always mix in the morning and get my dough risen during the day. So all I'm actually going to do with this dough is pause it in the fridge overnight. And then I'll pull it out and let it sit on the counter to finish rising tomorrow morning when I can watch it. But I'm just dying to try my mixer out. Okay. So I've got 100 out of this jar. Now I'm going to take 100 out of this jar. People ask me all the time, why do you keep 2 jars going? The reason is because sometimes I like to do quadruple batches at a time. And my starter jars can only hold about 300 grams total each before they start to, overflow and pop the lid. So I just keep the 2 jars going so that I can do bigger batches. Okay, so here we go. I'll refeed these starters in a moment. They're very hungry. So I've got 200 grams of starter in here. Now I want to add 700 grams of water. So let me just get some water here. So it's just regular tap water. I usually go for room temperature, but I never really focus on that too much. So what I'm doing right now is my level 2 hydration recipe. Find us on YouTube, go to the baking playlist. The level 2 hydration recipe is in there. The beginner bread recipe is what we recommend you start with. And then we say, start increasing your hydration. So it's 200 grams of starter, 700 grams of water, 1,000 grams of flour, and 20 grams of salt. So the bowl is still just sitting on my scale here. So I'm just going to pour in 700 grams. I'm loving that this bowl fits on my scale. I was thinking that I was going to have to measure into a different container and pour it into the bowl, but the bowl's sitting on my scale beautifully. So I'm not really concerned. I'm even happier than I expected to be, I guess you could say. So normally what I do now is I stand here with a whisk and dissolve the starter into the water. But what I'm going to do today is use my whips that came with the mixer. So the mixer comes with the whips and the dough handle. And I'm going to pop those on there and I'm going to let the whips do it. Whoa. That's awesome. I maybe should have put the lid on. We always have to be careful. Okay. Good. I'm just going to grab my flour and my salt. Okay, already right off the bat, that's the easiest sourdough starter dissolve I've ever done. So if you've ever watched any of my videos, I put the starter in, I put the water in. I use like a regular whisk and I dissolve the starter into the water. I just did this with these dough with my whips. So here they are. They're going to get washed. And I'll just show you this bowl. It's like beautiful and frothy and happy and ready to go. I am filming from my laptop today, which makes things a little bit more challenging, but look at how frothy and nice that is. Okay, so now we're going to add 1,000 grams of flour and 20 grams of salt, and then we're going to use our dough hook with the extender on to mix this up. And then what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave the dough sitting in the mixer, set an alarm every 30 minutes, turn it on for a minute or two, and that's going to count as my stretch and fold. And then I might actually just mark the height of this dough and let it rise in the fridge overnight. So I'm using a full 1 cup size scooper right now to put my flour in. And there's lots of room in the bowl for me to get this in without worrying about spilling on the top part. I mean, I am spilling a little bit on the part where the drive is, but I do know that I can take that axle out and clean in there. So I'm not as concerned. But I guess if you were mixing, you would want to make sure you weren't spilling too much stuff down there. So I'm getting these ingredients in right now. And I can already see there is definitely room in here to do a double batch. Like I could take this up to 400 grams of starter, 1,400 grams of water, 2,000 grams of flour, and 20 grams of salt. No problem. I don't think there would be any issue with that whatsoever. So I'm starting to be a believer in their claims. So I'm just going to pour 20 grams of salt in. I'm getting very low on salt. I just put it on the list today, but I think there's more than enough in this container for today's mix. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm going to just set this aside for a second. So now I've got the flour and the salt in the mixer. Let's see if I can lift it this way. So there it is. It's in there. And I'm going to get the mixer on the base. And I'm going to put my dough hook in. So it's like there's like a little sweet spot. I actually don't mind that too much. Okay, so this time I'm going to put my lid on. Oh, wait. First, bear with me. It's my first time using it. If you were watching at the beginning, I just unboxed this, gave everything a quick rinse. Okay, so I'm going to put my dough hook extender on, which it says we're supposed to use if we're doing smaller batches. And in this case, I think that this our regular level 2 hydration recipe that makes 2 loaves would be considered a smaller batch for the Bosch stand mixer. So I'll just show you. I've got the dough hook on. Now what I'm going to do is get my lid on. I think there's like there we go, lid on. And then this one just has little connectors that you sort of find the sweet spot for, and then it falls in. And we're going to turn this on to 1 and see what happens. It looks really cool. I'm going to show you in just a sec. So the machine's not wobbling. It's not scooting. It doesn't seem to really be having any issues at all. So I'll just show you what's happening in here. Like, there we go. We're mixing sourdough. It's moving it around. It's scraping the edges. I think by the time it's done mixing this dough is going to end up looking pretty small in there. Pretty cool. I'm into it. So, like I said, if you've been thinking about getting a Bosch stand mixer, if you're going to get it now or if you're going to get it anytime soon, save that link. It's for the standard Bosch Universal because you always get $20 off. And Nutrimil makes sure that they always have the best price. So when you go on Amazon and you find the Bosch mixer, that's their shop too, but their website price is always better. The shipping is good, everything else. As my 7-year-old would say, so satisfying. That's what she's always telling me. Look, so satisfying. That dough is mixed pretty nice. Turn, lift. So check out that dough. That's pretty good looking sourdough. I'm pretty excited. Okay, so I'm going to just leave this on here and stretch and fold it. Every 30 minutes, 3 or 4 times tonight. And then I'm going to stick this dough in the fridge to pause it overnight. Because I don't want to stay up and wait for it to rise tonight. So if you don't know about pausing, like I said, on the Sourdough for Beginners YouTube channel, find the baking playlist. There's one that's called Short on Time, Sick. What things can you do if you started your sourdough and now you're realizing that you're going to have to stay up all night? You don't have to stay up all night. You can just stick your sourdough in the fridge and take it out of the fridge and pick up where you left off the day before. I'm going to finish stretching and folding this bread and park it in the fridge overnight. So definitely make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Definitely make sure you're following on Facebook. If you've got any questions at all, message me. I always answer.